Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This video that I'm going to be talking about today is what I call the magnifying effect. If you are a Christian, a believer, believe in the universe, believe in insert whatever, this video can somehow apply to you. I call it the magnifying effect because when you openly announce and publicize your relationship with Christ, spirituality, whatever it is, insert whatever, you now become a target for other people. People view you through a different lens, which is what I call the magnifying effect. Everything that you do and everything that you put out, whether it's on social media, how you act in public, how you act when you go out with friends, how you act when you're at a bar, if you are going to bars, or if you're just out on the town, even just shopping. People are going to put you under a new scope than they would when you were previously living in sin, doing whatever it was that you were when you were in the world. And the reason that I call it this is because people look at you differently. They almost like magnify your sin. They almost, anything that you do, they're like, well, you claim to be a Christian, so why are you acting like that? You claim to be a Christian, why are you doing this? You claim to be a Christian, why are you dressing like that? And that's, I honestly want to make another video on modesty and what I feel like modesty is as a Christian woman. So I'm going to be doing that one next, but I digress. So with the magnifying effect and the things that I've found to be very prevalent, people who aren't believers, who don't believe in whatever, agnostic, or maybe they think there is something, or maybe they don't think there's, they're atheists, they don't think there's nothing, not a zilch, that's it. They have probably had a lot of religious trauma. Maybe that's something, maybe that's just one example. I'm not speaking for everyone who's a part of that community. But they may have had some type of religious trauma, or they may have had Christians treat them very, very poorly in the past. And so that's why they feel like all the things that they're doing, but you still call yourself a Christian, but you don't express love. And that's why a lot of people get confused. And one thing that I've kind of come across is love your neighbor as you love yourself, right? But a lot of people don't love themselves. So they can't really love other people, even if you are a Christian. So like, work on that. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm just going to say, if you can't love yourself, if you can't look in the mirror and genuinely love the creation that God has, bestowed upon you, no matter what you look like, I mean, that's a blessing. You woke up and you're able to watch this video. You woke up and you're able to go do whatever. You woke up and you're able to use 2 feet, use both your hands, use both your arms, or whatever blessing you feel like you woke up with today. You already woke up, so you're granted a million blessings to begin with. You have so much. And so having that humbling mindset, especially taking, for example, I sometimes struggle with anxiety. So what I've been finding, and one of the best cures for anxiety, is to just in the morning, boom, as soon as I wake up, I'm thanking God that I woke up. Then I'm immediately going and I'm journaling and I'm praying and I'm writing down everything that I'm thankful for. And that list is so short in comparison to how many blessings I actually have. But it's just me jotting down, I woke up today. I made myself breakfast. I'm able to go to work. I'm able to commute to work with the car that I have. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that's such a blessing. And I'm able-bodied enough that I'm able to do all these things. I'm able to cook myself breakfast. Like, how beautiful is that? I was given money so I can go and buy those groceries. Like, already you're putting yourself in this gratitude mindset. So number one with the magnifying effect is, if you feel like you are somebody who doesn't actually spread love because you don't love yourself, then that's what you need to work on. I struggled with this for a long, long time. I was just like not a very nice person. And so it was because I didn't fully love myself, or maybe I didn't like how other people were treating me. So I reacted poorly to it, but then that gave them a poor taste of Christians. You know what I mean? And we are called to be held to a higher standard. We're his children. We should lead by example. And if we don't show that love and kindness and compassion, I mean, how many times have you committed the same sin over and over and over and over and over again? But then you'll go and call somebody out for being homeless. Oh, they're just on drugs. But the average person probably rebounds like 7 times back to the same drug that they were on, or the same heavy drug, or alcoholism, or whatever it was that caused them to be homeless in the first position. But you also rebounded 7 times back into that same sin and then went back and asked God for forgiveness as well. Did you not? But you're going to sit here and watch him on the side of the road. And half of you are just going to be like, oh, well, I just don't want to give him money because I'm scared he's going to go spend it on drugs. And God shouldn't have given you forgiveness because you were going to go and commit that same sin again anyway, and he knew it anyway. The silence is deafening. Whatever. You can have your opinions on whatever you want. I sometimes get scared to approach homeless people because of the fact I was told from a young age as a woman, like, you don't approach men, you don't approach men, you don't approach men. Like, it was drilled into my brain until I finally realized, just for protection, because my family has 2 daughters, they're like, you can't approach men, like, do not do that. You don't know what they have. And there is some truth to that. Obviously, there's terrible things that happen to women all across the world. just because they were nice, you know what I mean? And that is definitely a part of it. I'm not going to neglect the fact that there are terrible people in this world, because there are. But we can still have compassion and empathy and pray for them and do the absolute best that we can. If you're not getting bad vibes from this person, then, I mean, I don't know, maybe work on your discernment, one. But two, if you are discerning and you're like, okay, this person's literally just down on their luck, like, why can't I help them? And if you're too scared to give them money, then give them food. They're probably hungry too. You could give them food instead. If you're scared, they're so scared they're gonna spend money on drugs, just give them food. I'm sure they're hungry. Oh my gosh, half of you just amaze me. Anyways, the other thing that I've noticed with this effect too, so one, work on loving yourself so then that way you can spread other love. And that love comes from Jesus Christ, right? We should love Jesus as much as Jesus loves the church. That's the biggest thing, really. We have to find love and compassion that's God has for the church that we should have for ourselves and for others, right? So when you don't love how can you be expected to love your neighbor as yourself if you don't even love yourself, right? So that's the biggest thing. Number two, with this magnifying effect, is it's not always your fault. Somebody may have a flawed view of religion that you didn't do to somebody, but you can still apologize for them. The amount of times I've had to sit down and listen to somebody who wasn't a Christian express their religious trauma to me because of something else somebody did, I can still apologize on behalf of that person. That might be the only apology they ever get out of the terrible, awful things that have happened to them. The things I've heard people confess to me of what's been done to them, you can sit there and listen to that and realize, wow, yeah, terrible things have happened to people. Maybe I should have some compassion for people that don't want to be a part of a church, because maybe terrible things did happen to them and I can acknowledge that. And I can apologize for that person. Although an apology doesn't always fix everything. It's simply a band-aid to a terrible wound that this person may have. Still a fact. But you can at least sit down and listen to this person's story. You can have compassion. You can have empathy. Okay? It's free. It's free. You can have compassion, you can have empathy. Don't let those people take advantage of you when they're just trauma dumping, if they are trauma dumping, but listen to their story. Maybe there's something you can learn from that. Okay, if we spent more, God would often hang out, when Jesus was on earth, he would hang out with sinners and people that were sick. He didn't conform to what they were doing, but he went to help them. He wanted to help them. He was releasing people who were possessed with demons. He was hanging out with tax collectors. And you won't even, sit in a different spot in church because you're so used to sitting in the same exact spot in the same exact pews with the same exact people you've known since forever. Okay? We can mix it up. It's okay. You don't have to conform to their sin. You don't have to okay their sin. You just simply have to love them. That is all that's being asked of you. And quite frankly, when you just sit down and listen, you can build a connection with people. You can foster love and care and a friendship. And then ultimately maybe bring in Jesus or even talk about religion. Eventually it's going to come up. I guarantee it. Especially if you're praying over this person, you don't think that God's going to give you an in to talk about it. You could be the one person that brings somebody else through Jesus Christ to salvation. And half of you are just going to sit up here and just post your little Bible verses. Oh, there we go. I did my job for today. I posted my Bible verse and there it is. That's all I did. And that's great, because half the time I know the ones that I post are really cute and they're pink and they're adorable and I love them. But we got to be doing more than that. We need to have compassion. We need to have empathy. My third point, I'm going to get to a fourth, but my third point, sometimes it's hard to count all my points on here, guys. I'm so sorry. Excuse me. My third point is that Jesus also had religious trauma. The Pharisees literally crucified him. So having compassion and actually loving yourself the same way that God loved himself, the same way that Jesus spread love, his love was so perfect that they couldn't even comprehend it. They crucified a perfect man in place of Barabbas. We are Barabbas. Understand, our sin quite literally separates us from God. That God cannot dwell with sin. It's imperfect. He doesn't want any part of it. But Jesus Christ is literally the reason that we are able to dwell with God. It is a perfect gift. It's such a perfect love that we can't even comprehend it. That's how beautiful it is. I can't even wrap my head around this perfect love. It's so beautiful, and it was just given to us. How amazing is that? But acknowledging that, yeah, Jesus did have religious trauma. They crucified him. They also treated him like crap. It was awful. It was terrible, quite frankly. Every time I think about it, I literally want to start crying because it's so awful. I won't though right now. But a lot of people have religious trauma, and that is important to acknowledge, and that is important to know. Because when we think about this magnifying effect and we think about how people are going to put us under a scope, the Pharisees were constantly putting Jesus under a scope. That's why they were constantly asking him questions, because they wanted to find a place where he could mess up. They were so intent on just watching him constantly, asking him questions, nailing him with questions, that they wanted him to mess up so badly. Like they wanted it. I could literally, I'm reading like Matthew and Mark right now, and I can physically see them foaming at the mouth because they just want him to mess something up that badly. Or they wanted him to be something else that he wasn't fitting into their perfect mold, because he already was perfect. Humans have no concept of perfection because we live in a sinful world, but he was perfect. And that's why it's so hard for us to wrap our heads around, because I've never seen perfection until I see the face of Jesus one day. And that will be perfection. I digress. But my point is here with the magnifying effect, my fourth and final point, is that people, irregardless, sometimes it's just not your fault. They're going to judge you. Either way, they're going to judge you. And you know what? That sin, maybe that's conviction. Maybe your conviction comes from a non-believer, and that's okay. That's okay too. I've had people ask me, like, if you're a Christian, why are you wearing that? If you're a Christian, why are you doing this? And it's like, oh, maybe I can just take that as conviction, ask for forgiveness, and maybe I try my best not to do it again. Or maybe I take it as, you know, this is an area where I need to improve. Maybe they are right. Maybe they aren't believers, but they're still asking me questions. Either way, it still tells me that they're curious and they want to know. So I take it as a blessing, because if you're asking questions and you're clearly curious and you want me to talk about something that you're either one, confused on, or two, you're just fascinated with what I'm doing. Either way, I get to talk about myself or Jesus, so I'm not really losing here. But anyways, my point that I'm trying to make is that sometimes people are just going to be mad. They're just going to be mad. They're going to be looking for a reason to literally nail you to something that maybe you weren't even aware that you were doing. Maybe you weren't even aware that those gym pics that you were posting were, you know, lustful. Or maybe you're not the one lusting, but it was causing someone else to lust. Not your fault though, but I'm saying maybe someone else is viewing it that way. Never the girl's fault. I don't blame girls here. But what I am saying is that I've recently not felt necessarily a conviction. This is going to be, I'm going to touch on it more with my video, is like the way that I dress at the gym. As of recently, I've been feeling like maybe I should dress differently. Again, not my fault. It's just the weirdos that are in the gym, because I'm trying to protect myself. So not really a conviction, just more like I don't want to be stared at. But irregardless, the point that I'm trying to make here is that people are just going to be mad for no reason sometimes at you. And that's just a reflection of who they are, not of who you are. Because your light is, again, so perfect and so shining through, like Jesus is shining quite literally through you. They sense that. Everyone's on a different vibrational level, whether or not you realize it. So people will sense that and they will notice it about you, and it will either make them mad or it will make them want to come closer to God. All you can do is really do your best. And I think that's really the note that I want to end on with this video, is just understanding how important it is to truly just be the light of Jesus Christ. I pray for this all the time. I ask that I'm just a light on this kingdom of earth, and I'm just able to spread his goodness and his light and all the things that he does miraculously, the blessings that he's bestowed upon me. I want him to do that for other people too, if he's not already doing it. I want people to dwell with Jesus, because my life has become so much better because I chose to dwell with him. And I just hope that I can share that light and that glory with other people. I mean, genuinely, when you bring your problems to Jesus, it's suddenly like, now it's no longer my problem. Like, that's all he ever wanted me to do, was just bring my problems to him. And it becomes so much easier to handle when it's almost like a team mentality, where it's like, I'm just gonna let him work this out however he wants to, because I know it's for my greater good, or it's ultimately for the greater good of his kingdom. And what a blessing that is, that we get to be a part of something so much bigger than ourselves. I have no concept of God, like how perfect he is, until I meet him. But the closest thing that I've ever come to even like fathoming, because God has always been there before humanity, before everything, and he will be there after humanity, after everything. He's the Alpha, the Omega, right? The closest thing, and this is even still minuscule, it pales in comparison to him, right? So I live in South Carolina, right? There's this place called Johns Island. There's this massive oak tree. It's called Angel Oak Tree. If you're ever passing through South Carolina, it's close to Charleston, for reference, if you don't know where Johns Island is. It's this massive, like, couple 100-year-old tree. There's other huge trees right out in California, the redwoods. I've not seen those, but I have seen the Angel Oak Tree that's in South Carolina. It's a huge tourist attraction. I just went there though because it's so beautiful. But the energy of this tree, it's so old. Its limbs are literally the size of other massive trees, and that's just its limbs. You get right up next to its trunk and it's huge. Like, it's so massive, and you're just standing under this thing that is so beautiful. It's timeless and it's magnificently just huge. I mean, that's like the closest thing I've ever come to understanding. Like, God has always been there and he will always be there. And his love and his graciousness and his goodness is so massive, I can't even comprehend it. I could hardly comprehend this tree that was standing in front of me. So I can only begin, not even begin. I can't even scratch the surface. I'm not even a snowflake on the iceberg that is God. It's so beautiful. And how amazing is that we get to serve something that's that beautiful. I mean, like, truly, I just feel so blessed about it. And I hope that this video helps you guys to understand a little bit more, or if you are going through something like this, or if you've dealt with something like this in the past, I hope that this helps in any type of way. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you again later.